Alright, so this is my 2018 Subaru Impreza Premium 5-door. Currently, it has 1,665 miles, and I've owned it for 8 months now. I bought it because, well, it's the cheapest all-wheel drive car you can get new, so that's why I bought it, because I wanted all-wheel drive, I wanted something fuel efficient, and I wanted something affordable. That's exactly what this is. So, but I don't exactly have much of a need for it anymore. So I do want to sell it right now. But I'm gonna go ahead and just talk about, how it is to drive and everything. So we're gonna take off here. And first, we're gonna go on a little back road. I'm gonna see what this all-wheel drive system is capable of. It's actually a really adequate car. It's high quality. You can really tell Subaru did a good job making this car. My personal opinion of Subaru is not very positive in general, but this particular car is fine. I just don't like Subaru because I think they're too trendy. Their resale value is just absurdly high. It's a good thing if you're buying it new. It's not so good if you're buying it used. But this car is a CVT. I think it's a very good CVT. I have no complaints with it at all. Well, I take that back. The only thing I really don't like is its fake shifts at higher RPM ranges. It does try to mimic a traditional automatic, which I'm not a big fan of. Other than that, this CVT is an extremely good transmission, at least for the short term. It may not be a reliable transmission, only time will be able to determine that. But it's a great transmission. It's very responsive. You put your foot down and it just responds very, very quickly. And it's excellent for fuel efficiency. One of the great things about this car is that you can hypermile it. It may not be the most rewarding vehicle to hypermile, but you absolutely can hypermile this vehicle. I've gotten 44 miles per gallon in this vehicle on a 130 mile trip. That was, not aggressive hypermiling, but definitely some degree of hypermiling. Just going 45 miles per hour, target speed, sometimes going faster. I was going on a 65 miles per hour speed limit, so occasionally I would have to pull off to the side of the road to let traffic pass me. That hurt my fuel efficiency a little bit. It was 30 degrees, so that probably hurt my fuel efficiency a little bit. But 44 miles to the gallon on a 130 mile loop is pretty good. So the most fuel efficient speed for this vehicle seems to be between 40 and 45 miles per hour. That seems to be when the CVT keeps it at the lowest RPM. The CVT, when it's fully warmed up, it'll hold the engine at 1100 RPM. Up till about 43 miles per hour, where it just runs out of ratios. At 50 miles per hour, it's still at 1300 RPM. At 70 miles per hour, it's still under 2000 RPM. It's incredible. When it's particularly cold outside, it does like to keep the RPMs a little bit higher, but that's to make everything warm up a little bit faster. Like the emission system and everything like that. So it will keep the RPMs a little bit higher, and you're going to burn way more gas, but it's worth it, I guess, for the longevity of the car. So going on to other things besides fuel efficiency, the way the car drives is very strange. I'm not gonna say it's very strange, but it rewards you for going on a back road. But this car is so bad for city driving and for just driving in neighborhoods. This is the way the car is. It wants to be driven quickly. It wants to be in a hurry. If that makes sense. It doesn't want to pedal around and just go slowly. It wants to be in a hurry all the time. And it absolutely rewards you for going fast on a back road. It is genuinely fun to drive on a back road. The handling is very, very firm and it feels very good all around. It gives you confidence. You know, it's all-wheel drive. It gives you that extra amount of confidence. And it's a good handling car. I will give it that. The acceleration is not fantastic, but it is adequate. I can't understand why people complain about the acceleration of these cars. It's perfectly fine. I have absolutely no problems with the amount of acceleration on this car. And it's just adequate. That's all I can say. This car is really fun to drive, even with its limited power. You know, it's the most fuel efficient all-wheel drive car. So it's not killing it to be, to have a small engine with low horsepower. It's not that bad of a situation. I mean, if it'd be one thing if it was a much heavier car, then fuel efficiency wouldn't be that much of an issue if it was a heavier car. Because if it was a heavier car, then why do you care about fuel efficiency? But if it's the most fuel efficient car, then it just makes sense for it to have, a less powerful engine. And I believe that the engine of this car is very, very adequate. On a regular basis, this thing never goes over 2,000 RPM. I don't drive my cars hard, per se, but I just think it's extremely adequate. And like I said, this particular engine very rarely goes over 2,000 RPM. The only time it'll go over 2,000 RPM is when I'm merging onto the highway. That's probably the only time where I need it to go over 2,000 RPM. It's just good. The braking on this car, it feels amazing. I really like the braking on this car. The pedal feels good, and the traction is good. This thing just has the factory all-season tires, and even on these snowy roads, it has pretty good braking. I'm overall very, very pleased with this car. It is very satisfying to drive on a back road, but just low speed driving, terrible. It's just so clunky that you just can't enjoy it. else to say. It's a good car. You know, it's so low miles that I haven't had any issues with it. Except for one time when it was extremely cold outside. It was probably -3 degrees. And it was the coldest I had ever attempted to start it, and it didn't want to start. The entire ignition system did nothing. I put the key in the run position, and it just did nothing. But I waited for it to warm up. You know, I waited for the outside to warm up. It went from -3 to about 9 degrees, and then it started up. So I'm not sure what that was, but that did happen. It did fail to start on me, but I think it was just because it was cold or something. It only happened once. I'm honestly not too worried about it, though. Another thing about this car is the steering. I don't think the steering ratio needs to be this quick. It has a sports car steering ratio. I think the exact number is 13-1, which, you know, that's sports car that's sports car territory. It's not really necessary to have a steering ratio like that on a car like this. I was happy with the previous generation's steering ratio, but I mean, it's fine. The actual steering feel is kind of numb. You can kind of tell what's going on, but at the same time, you really are guessing, because the steering wheel just doesn't tell you very much. It does tell you a little bit. You know, it's electric, so it's not going to be perfect, but even for an electric system, it's very good as far as feel goes. I just think the ratio is too quick. Like, you can see around this turn, I would expect to have to turn the steering wheel a little bit more, but as far as actual responsiveness, you know, I could test out the dartingness, or the, what do they call it? I don't know. Okay, it's not the greatest in the world, but it's responsive. The steering ratio is just too quick. That's my only complaint. Another thing about the steering is that it doesn't return to center very much. So you when you make a turn and you let go of the steering wheel, it just pretty much likes to stay roughly in the same spot. It doesn't like to return to center. It does return to center a little bit, but not as much as you would expect it to. You do have to manually return the center to the straight ahead position whenever you're coming from a turn. Which is a minor nitpick. It's just something that kind of annoys me a little bit. It's not a big issue though. Other than that, I really don't have much else to say. I do like this car. I do think it's one of the best options in the compact segment. I mean, I can definitely appreciate it. I didn't even test drive any of the other competition before I bought it because I wanted all-wheel drive. But even if it wasn't all-wheel drive, I still think it would be a pretty good buy. It's just, I would rather have an older car, and this is just too new for me. Nothing wrong with it, but it's just too new for me. But yeah, that's about it. pretty good car overall. Some minor things that I don't like. The acceleration is perfectly fine. I'd plan to do an acceleration video later. Just gotta find the right stretch of road. Gotta be at the right time, right place at the right time. We'll see what that is when the time comes. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's all I gotta talk about.